The following episode will contain spoilers. You have been warned.
You're listening to Cinema IRL, the podcast that throws you into the movie and asks the question, what would you do? Amber and Scott saw Wicked. There is no chance you're listening to this podcast and don't know what's going on here. And now, Cinema IRL.
I wish I could switch places for just one day.
What would you do?
Put yourself in my shoes.
How do we handle this?
What would you do?
Put yourself in my position.
What would you do?
Now it's your turn.
Today, our movie was Mean Girls, Oz Edition.
I'll get you, my pretty. Yes, this episode we are talking about Wicked, the untold story of the witches of Oz. Elphaba, a young woman misunderstood because of her unusual green skin, who has yet to discover her true power, and Glinda, or Galinda, a popular young woman gilded by privilege and ambition, who has yet to discover her true heart.
Yep.
This was movie magic at its absolute best.
Oh, yeah. I could not agree more. Like, this is, like, I have waited 13 years for this. And let me clarify that. If I have my own timeline correct here. In 2011, when it came out here to LA at the Pantages.
The play. Oh, the play?
Yes, the musical. I went and saw it. And for the first part of it or so, everything was cool. But then I kind of realized that I was having a hard time sitting still, and I was shifting a lot, and I could not pay attention to the story at all. Like, at all. And it turns out I was having a kidney stone attack at the time. So it completely wrecked my Wicked experience. And I've been waiting or been wanting to find a way to watch this story again ever since. Like, I almost saw it on Broadway, almost saw it in Chicago, almost. But now, finally, I at least know the story. I think. So this is a two-parter.
Yeah, I didn't know that going into it, but then it says Wicked, Part 1. I'm like, oh, okay, so we're not going to get resolution here after 2 hours and 40 minutes.
Yeah, which didn't really feel like 2 hours and 40 minutes.
No, I was dreading that because usually that's only reserved for like Martin Scorsese to do movies that long, with Leonardo DiCaprio, of course. But yeah, it flew by, and it was fabulous, and it was just aesthetically magical. The colors and the imagery and the dance sequences and the choreography and the costumes, everything was just freaking magical. I can't imagine what went into producing that film.
I mean, this is the most hyped movie I've seen in a long time. I mean, it has gone over the freaking top trying to promote this.
And I guess they have Wicked drinks at Starbucks because I saw your mom post a photo.
Oh, did she? I mean, it doesn't shock me at all. I mean, there's probably about 1 billion product tie-ins on this one.
Oh, I'm sure.
So, I mean, obviously we don't want to get too much into it being a movie review show. You just see the movie.
It would be remiss without commenting on just how freaking beautifully magical it was.
Yeah, and it should be noted. There's very few movies I've ever said need to be seen in the theater, like really need to be seen in the theater. And like Avatar has always been my big one. I didn't like Avatar. I didn't think it was a very good movie, but it was so visually beautiful that it needed to be seen in the theater. And this is the same way, only it's actually a good movie.
Yeah, it would be a pity to see this on a small screen at home. Regardless of how big your big screen is, it will not do this film justice.
Yeah, like unless your screen is somewhere over 100 inches, and I'm not talking a projector. I mean, like if you're one of those rich people that actually has a movie theater in your home, maybe. But even then, honestly, you probably don't have an AMC-sized movie theater. And
like that theater we saw when we went to Alex Trebek's house.
Yeah, but even that wasn't.
Yeah, but I mean like a home theater.
Yeah.
Like a dedicated home theater. So let's dig in here. Lots of plot topics.
Actually, I'm going to let you lead if you've got one because okay. So I will go with it. And this movie really has brought out a lot of themes that, and I know you love to stay away from politics, and we mostly will stay away from politics, except we're going to go overarching on it, in that good and evil truly is a matter of perspective. And because if all you've seen is The Wizard of Oz, and you want to look at the witch, you're like, oh, that bitch is evil. Like, no redeeming qualities whatsoever. Like, she is horrible, horrible evil, because that's your perspective. And if all you had seen was Wicked and not The Wizard of Oz,
Right.
you'd be like, okay, well, she's got green skin, but
She's the hero.
this is clearly the hero of the story.
Absolutely.
100%. And how in the hell could anyone say that this person was wicked? I mean, like, clearly that's just propaganda, which really is where we are with American politics. You got two sides that both don't understand how the other one could see their person as horrible and bad and awful.
Yeah.
Even though I think there is one, but
Yeah. I like to stay clear of politics because I think people need a safe space that has just entertainment for entertainment value without getting into the current events of the day. So my opinion here on what you just said is one of my favorite quotes is, and I'm paraphrasing here, I won't get it exactly right, but something about don't judge my story by the chapter you walked in on. And I think that's really relevant to what you were just talking about, the Wicked Witch, Elphaba, because you're right. If you saw one of those films independently, one you would think Elphaba was the hero of the story. The other one, you're like, oh yeah, she's terrible. And you don't know people's backstories. Anytime we meet someone, it's like even something as benign if someone, snaps at you or says something, snippy to you if you're waiting in line at the market, or, if it's a parent waiting to pick up their kids and you have some sort of negative encounter, you don't know what their story is. You don't know. Maybe they just got broken up with, or maybe their parent is in the hospital, or you just don't know anyone's backstory. And when you look at this story and you realize they filled in the backstory for these characters, which I had no familiarity with Wicked at all going into this, and to see that Glinda and Elphaba were friends, and to see that they kind of started off as enemies, then kind of frenemies, and then evolved into friends. And every time that Elphaba could be kind or to include Glinda, later named Glinda, she did. So she was very kind.
Yeah, and that's the thing. It's interesting too, because there's a movie that we probably won't end up seeing, because I know you don't love the Marvel movies.
Some of them are okay. I loved the one I loved.
I don't remember, but there's one coming out about Kraven.
Okay.
And it's a villain origin story, and the tagline in it is, was it villains or hero or something? It's villains of some form. I don't remember exactly what they use. I don't think it's that. Villains aren't born, they're made.
Yeah.
And I think that's exactly what is going on here. Like, she left to her own would have been a very good person and would have been on the side of good forever. But at a certain point, society and the people around you can vilify you to the point that, okay, if this is what you want out of me, this is what you'll get out of me.
Well, when you say villains are made, it reminds me of the most recent Joker film that came out, and how he was just a kid like any other kid, but his messed up mom made him messed up, and he grew up to be a messed up man.
Yeah. And I mean, people don't generally start messed up. So, I mean, mental health issues, yes, but
Well, you look at even bullying in school. Like, bullying can take an ordinarily passive, shy, introverted child and make them do something terrible, which we've seen all too often in our schools.
And this actually, I mean, it's interesting because today, and I don't remember the name of the person involved in this, but I know it was a very big deal, and you probably will because you have much better memory on these things. The lady who was convicted in 1994 of keeping her 2 kids strapped into the car and rolling it into a lake, drowning both of her children, and she got life in prison.
I'm not familiar with that.
Okay, so I can't remember the name here. Maybe I'll add to show notes later, but she had a very publicized parole hearing, and like we had heard nothing from her in 30 years. And she was up for parole, trying to get back out, and you could tell she seemed very remorseful. She didn't seem like the type of person who could do what she did. And maybe it was something postpartum. They've said it was mental health issues, but she didn't appear to be that person.
Okay.
That would be capable of that, but yet she did. And this is kind of what you said, like circumstances can make anybody, even the best of us, go cuckoo. FYI, her parole was denied. Because apparently South Carolina likes to deny parole, but also she murdered her 2 children, so 30 years is not enough.
So looking at this film and the evolution of these characters and their backstory and where they started off with, first of all, I know he wasn't Prince Charming, but the Prince Charming-esque character.
Yes.
And how he and Elphaba took a stand to, I don't want to say save, but to speak out on behalf of the animals.
Yeah, I didn't see this turning into an animal rights movie.
Yeah, no, he wound up being an animal liberationist as far as I'm concerned, so I loved him. But
was he? See, I don't think he actually...
He went and took the cub out of the cage.
Yes, but if Elphaba's not right there, do you think he does that?
I don't know.
I don't think so.
Well, lots of people don't take that side when given the opportunity, even if it's with others. Anyway, so they were both speaking out on behalf of the animals who back then could talk, and they were professors and leaders, and something was changing in Oz so that they were losing their ability to talk. And one of the last animal professor at the university that Galinda, and I'm saying Galinda on purpose, folks, you'll see in the movie she evolves to Glinda, but the Galinda and Elphaba at their school, and the last animal teacher is a goat who, of course, can talk. Yeah, doctor, he had a doctorate. And so he is ultimately whisked off, forcibly detained and taken away by guards. And when Elphaba gets to Oz for her one grand wish, she wants to help the animals. And we find out that it's actually the Wizard of Oz who has a hand in silencing the animals.
Yeah. So, I mean, my guess is, if they pursue it further, and they might, is that the animals and their ability to talk and stuff like that was part of, like, the wizard felt threatened by it. I mean, obviously, we know enough about the wizard to know that he just randomly stumbled in to this whole wizard thing and was able to mystify an entire group of people, and that's how he became the wizard. But...
well, and this was the beginning of caging animals, because the new professor that came in to replace
explained what a cage was.
Yeah, and said, oh, here's a little lion cub, and he's in a cage. Explain to you what a cage is. So that was the beginning of imprisoning animals. So that was really an insightful twist. And when Elphaba gets to Oz to say, what is your one wish? And of course, most people assume it would be to not be green, but she uses her wish to help the animals. So, yeah, she was a really amazing character to see that backstory and how, like you said, circumstance is going to change that character over time, which, you know, we all do. We all evolve.
I mean, it's interesting to see that as you go along, that she was being set up like from the very beginning. Like,
right. She was being groomed to be
a villain.
Yeah, to assist in this bigger scheme that she had no idea existed.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think everything was necessarily all hunky dory there in Oz and the Emerald City. I think there was some amount of unrest amongst the people. And I mean, again, almost going back to politics at a certain point, like you could have Republicans and Democrats fighting against each other, but if all of a sudden, say, China were to become a major threat, I think you'd all of a sudden find Republicans and Democrats pseudo arm in arm to fight the bigger enemy. So if you want to bring people together, you give them a good bad guy. So, and that's the story here, is that I think he's trying to quell the unrest. My guess is there's something with the animals that can essentially see through him, if you will, and he needed to silence them.
I guess we will see whenever part 2 drops. The interesting thing too about, you know, exploring what would you do, and Elphaba was presented with this opportunity to have immense power, to live in Emerald City alongside the Wizard of Oz, and to rule and influence everything within that community. And she stood up and said no. While everyone was stunned and shocked that she would turn down this amazing opportunity, she not only stuck to her values, but she did it so much so where she had to flee for her life and her freedom so she could fight another day, basically.
Yeah.
And I have immense respect for that, because so many people will sell out for power.
Oh yeah. Yeah, for sure. So another one on human emotions. I just kind of want to give you a hypothetical question here. Let's say that you and I are walking down the road. We're going for a walk.
The Yellow Brick Road?
It could be any road, probably a residential road. And there's a car coming. Something happens with the car. The car seizes up, like it has a tech issue.
Okay.
And it runs me down and kills me.
Okay.
How are you going to feel about the person who is behind the wheel of that car?
If it was a malfunction that they had absolutely nothing to do with?
Well, I mean, yes, that is the presumption, or that is what the
investigation
revealed.
Okay.
Like, I know me, I would not be able to get away from the thought that, like, no matter what it was, you were the one behind the wheel, and I'm going to hate you forever. Now, the hatred might be a lot lessened versus, like, if you did it intentionally. But, like, I'm never going to be able to look at that person and be like, yeah, we can be friends now. You killed my spouse, but we'll be friends, or anything like that.
What is the tie-in here with the film? I'm struggling here.
Well, it's interesting because I'm jolting ahead a little bit here.
Are you talking about a film that part 2 that has not yet been released?
No, I'm talking about part 3 that has been released. When Dorothy comes into Oz.
Okay, fill me in. What are you talking about? Part 3 that has been released?
The Wizard of Oz.
Oh, okay. So you're calling the original Wizard of Oz Part 3?
It basically is, yes. When Dorothy comes in and her house lands. What does her house land on?
The Wicked Witch of the West?
Of the East.
Of the East, okay. Oh, yeah.
You know.
The sister.
Elizabeth's sister.
Oh, that's interesting.
So
okay, I didn't.
So we
yeah.
we know that her sister will end up in solidarity and will become the Wicked Witch of the East. And now maybe that's
interesting.
Maybe she'll become that the same way that Elspeth became the Wicked Witch of the West, like guilt by association, if you will. But yeah, because it's interesting because the whole thing with the Wicked Witch wanting to take down Dorothy was because she killed her sister. But she couldn't pilot the house. The house landed where the house landed. It wasn't her fault, but yet she was still like became obsessed with taking her down because you killed her sister. So I don't know if that's really what would you do, but it was. I mean, sort of. I mean, like
what would you do if a house landed?
How would you feel like about if something happened to a loved one that really was like there was a human element behind it, but it wasn't necessarily the human element. Like I feel like I'd forever associate it.
I mean, I certainly wouldn't want to hang out with the person that was behind the steering wheel in your initial story about the car. That said, if an investigation proved that it was actually a technical malfunction and that person didn't do anything wrong, I certainly couldn't, damn that person to hell or hate them or anything like that.
I would still always think, well, what if you had just turned a different direction? If you'd just gone a different way, then my loved one would still be here. Like maybe you didn't have malicious, but still, it was still in the end your actions that led to what that happened. Again, could be completely innocuous actions, but
that reminds me of many years ago. There was an issue at the farmers market in Santa Monica.
Yep.
And an elderly man.
I was thinking about that exact one. Yeah, when he just plowed through.
Yeah, he was an elderly person. He got a little confused between the brake and the gas. He accelerated into the farmer's market and killed, I can't remember.
It was like 7 or 8 people.
Killed a couple of people.
It was bad.
And that was the beginning of farmers markets, at least in our community here, having barricades because they wanted to protect them from similar type instances.
Whether it's malicious or not.
Yeah.
I mean, whether the intent was malicious or not, the result was still 7 or 8 dead people.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's interesting on that. God, I keep feeling like there's a lot of other topics that I really would want to hit.
Well, I think another interesting point is how Galinda initially does not like Elphaba. She makes her unwelcome in her room since she's kind of put in this situation where she has to share her room.
Yeah, she accidentally volunteered.
Yeah, and she doesn't really make space for her. She just carves out this little tiny corner that's surrounded by all of her stuff. And then she wants to make fun of her by giving her this ugly hat. And then when she realizes that Elphaba actually went out of her way to make one of the professors there also coach Galinda, in addition to the coaching that Elphaba was already getting, then she realized like, oh crap, I'm a really bad person.
Yeah, it's like, okay, I got to atone for this.
Yeah, and I think, that's human nature. I think sometimes folks will do the wrong thing until they're shamed into doing the right thing.
But even then, on top of that, sometimes it's just, that one act of kindness. Like that one thing that can take a relationship that's either neutral or bad. And
well, who extends a hand first? It's like I don't want to necessarily indulge your talk about politics, but what side of the aisle extends a hand to the other one to be able to work together in collaboration? It's
the John McCain.
Yeah, so it's that same kind of mentality of who is willing to be the bigger person. Who is willing to put whatever aside, and sometimes it's not just even the person who makes the gesture. Sometimes accepting that gesture is also a really significant move as well, because that takes just as much bravery as extending the hand, the kindness, the offer. Sometimes is being like, okay, crap, I've got to be a better person, or I've got to set this aside, or whatever. And
I don't know if it's just as much, but it's pretty. I get what you're saying. Is that it's easy to hold a grudge.
Yeah.
It's real easy to hold a grudge, and it's much harder to let that grudge go when given the opportunity. So, and really, that's what we need more of in this society is people letting shit go.
Yeah.
And if nothing else, that's
Let it go. I think we have another film here. Let it go.
No, that's Elsa, not Elphaba.
We hope you enjoyed our episode. Thank you for listening. And to catch all the new episodes, please subscribe. We release 2 to 3 episodes weekly, so we'll have new content regularly. Until next time.